Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not. Welcome back to the Pumpkinhead review series. I don't know what that face was. We're looking at Pumpkinhead 2 Blood Wings. Just released in 1994 direct-to-video and starring Amy Dolenz and Andrew Robinson of Hellraiser fame. Also has cameos from some horror icons like R.A. Mihailoff, aka Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Like Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Which wouldn't come out, which already came out in 1990, that's right. And Kane Hodder, who played Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th 7 through 10. But at this point, only been 7 and 8 and 9 had yet to come out. And Linnea Quigley, who has been in, let's see, Night of the Demons, the Slime Ball Bolorama, Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, Return of the Living Dead, and more. And this is part of that. Saturday Night, Deadly Night. She was in that. So this one was interesting because they go off the beaten path with this one, with a totally complete new origin story for Pumpkinhead, connecting it to this small town that could be the same place, but not really. I don't know. And it really has nothing to do with the first film. There's an old lady, but her name is Miss Ossie, and not Haggis, and her makeup's less gross. And there's no Ed Harley mentioned. There's nothing from the first film. No connection at all. It's strange. And literally, if you changed what the monster was, it wouldn't be a Pumpkinhead movie. It has some of those things, like a connection to someone, but not what you would think. And it's not used in the same way that it did in the first one. So it's confusing. Overall, though, I did enjoy it. Until the ending, because I felt it was unnecessary. We'll get to it. So, we start off in 1958, a year after the events of the first film's events, with Pumpkinhead attacking that guy, Dick Warlock, happened. So, we're a year after that. But a deformed kid named Tommy is attacked by a group of teenagers, led by John Gattens, who was Scott in Leprechaun 3, which came out the previous year, actually. The next year is 1995. That's right, because 4 is 2. So the next year. I'll say this. So they reveal that the older version of him is the judge in the town. The actor they got does not match who he is. However, the actor who's playing his son could look like he's related to Scott Gattens. You know, the same hair, ish. But this opening got me. So, like I said, I'm watching this on YouTube. It's like a VHS rip or something, and it's not the best quality. This is supposed to be in black and white, but it looked like it was overexposed a little bit. And I don't know. This made me cringe a bit. Not because it's like bad quality wise, but because this just doesn't feel right. So Tommy, who I think was a teenager, he's played by J.P. Mano, who I know from Phil of the Future and Aaron Stone, 2 Disney Channel shows. By the way, do you know that Spectrum dropped the Disney channels? I didn't know that. I got a message from Spectrum telling me that it was dropped, so I'm going to check it out myself. You go to the channels and it says that there's a little message on there. So I don't know if it's going to be a way or temporary or what. There was a time when Nickelodeon stations did the same thing, but I don't know what's going on here. Nickelodeon came back, but this, I don't know. Could be, From what I remember, Disney Channel became a full-fledged channel without you having to ask for it in 97, 98. So, yeah. But it became an actual channel in 83. That's when officially they designed the channel. But it wasn't officially a part of your cable that you didn't have to call in and request until like 97, 98. And then they had Toon Disney that you had to call and request. And that became a channel to like 2000. Anyway, and then it was replaced with Disney XD. Anyway, so like I said, this opening scene just, it's uncomfortable. That's the word, not cringe, uncomfortable. So these teenagers, Tommy's there, he's playing with his fire truck, beam, whatever, and Miss O.C., feeding him just in the middle of the woods, I guess, feeding him food in the middle of the woods on this plate that looks like dog food, but I don't know. And these kids come in, they see him, and they're like, "Hey, Tommy," and they come at him, and they beat him up, and they string him up on this thing. And then the main guy, John Gatton's character, is like, "Hey, look at me, I got a knife." I just start stabbing the fuck out of him. And I'm just like, okay. What makes it uncomfortable is his friends are like, yeah. I'm like, not one of these guys is like, hey, you know what? No, I shouldn't do it. They're all like, yeah, do it. Because unlike the first one, we have to establish this wasn't an accident. And every single person in this who will become victims in the future are completely responsible and should be killed. That's what this opening scene is about. So we flash to the present day, 1994, where Sheriff Robinson, or Sheriff Brackett, it's not Brackett. It can't be Brackett. Whatever. Andrew Robinson's character, the sheriff, let's call him the sheriff, has moved back to the town. He used to live there. He went to New York and he came back. And he has moved there with his wife and his daughter, Jenny. Jenny, I've got your number. Jenny, played by, or is it Jessie? Jenny. Played by Amy Dolenz, who is gorgeous, by the way. And I know she's old enough to be my mom, but goddamn. Just saying. Anyway, so it's established that Jenny is a bit of a troublemaker, and she immediately gets together with this group. There's Danny, and there's Soleil Moon Frye, whose boyfriend is Will from the Skulls, and then there is another guy there, Paul, who is just there, and she gets, hooked up with them, and they go to the place where Tommy was killed before, and the sheriff shows up and says, hey, you can't be here. And despite the fact that Danny, which is the character who I said is the judge's son, could be John Gatton's brother, because they're probably about the same age, but could play, the child or a flashback version of him. He's like, no, I said, oh, hey, it's okay, but really, it's very weird what they do with this character. He establishes himself as he's a troublemaker, but he's not that bad. But as the movie goes on, they decide that no, he needs to be as bad as his father. So it really gets worse and worse and worse as this movie goes on. But yeah, so even though she's told to stay away from them, of course she sneaks out with them that night. And as they're driving, for some reason, they decide to do the thing where they're driving and turning off the headlights, turn them back on, and turn them off, turn them back on. And of course, he turns it back on, he hits Miss O.C., and she's fine. She ends up going back home. But they're like, oh, what happened? And then they end up finding her house with some stuff for some ritual. There's blood, whatever. And Marcy, who is played by Soleil Moon Frye, is like, oh, this is for a dark ritual, because she knows that stuff, I guess. She's supposed to be the goth, even though I don't know. But yeah, and then Miss O.C. shows up and tells them, "Get out of there." Now she's blind, apparently, so she can't see them. Why she's blind? Shouldn't her eyes be white like cataracts? Why are they black? Feels a little too much, but he tells them to get out of there, and said you're going to do. They said they're going to do this ritual, and I think Danny hits her, and then they leave, and they go to this graveyard. It looked like they pulled it from Pet Cemetery. It looks like a Pet Cemetery. There's even a cross that has that circle and the cross on it. It's very weird. It's like, this is like Pet Cemetery. And they put the blood of the damned on him to do the ritual. They don't think it works, and then they notice that Miss O.C.'s house is on fire, so they go there, but it doesn't help anything, and then it turns out that the ritual did work, and then the next day we see the sheriff around a bunch of wood that's clearly not burnt, but is supposed to be the burnt down house. I don't know. But Pumpkinhead is now around, and he starts going around killing people. He starts with Irv, who wants to get his money back for his hunting license, because you know something's coming after him. So you know that there's something going on if he kind of figures it out. But Irv is killed by Pumpkinhead. There's quite a few off-screen kills, but there's one kill in here that is the best kill in this movie, that is there for just all the glory. And that's what most of the effects money was spent on. But Irv is killed. And then our next one is the mailman Red, played by Ari Mihailoff, who is banging Linnea Quigley. And let me tell you, if a fat ass like that could bang Linnea Quigley, why can't I get a woman as gorgeous as Linnea Quigley? Come on. Dude is as fat as I am. He's fatter than I am. Come on, man. I don't know, but he gets killed, again, sort of off screen, but killed. And at these crime scenes, they're leaving what they call Blood Wings, which is the title of the movie. And it connects back to the fact that this group was called the Red Wings, which, if you pay attention, the opening thing is on the back of the jacket, so you kind of figure out what's going on. Well, the sheriff hasn't, though. The next victims are the Knox brothers, one of which is played by Kane Hodder, and they're harassing their sister, who one of them is also doing, so the redneck stereotype there, inbreeding. It's inbreeding, but it's also incest. There, that's the word, incest. Weird. Weird to do. Not that I want to shame anyone for doing it, but come on. Anyway, so Pumpkinhead shows up and kills the both of them, which means that Pumpkinhead has killed both a Leatherface and a Jason. So, you know, if they do that reboot that's coming out, supposedly, the Paramount players are going to do a reboot. You should cast Robert Englund so he can, fill up the trifecta of horror icons. Hey, cast Brad Dourif too, just so you can round that up. And somewhere around there, try to sprinkle in Doug Bradley. I think that'd be cool to have him in there. You know what I mean? But I don't know if you can get all three of those for one movie, but who knows? After that, there's only one left. The sheriff discovers that his daughter was there at the fire because they're sure that from that night smells like smoke. And at one point, they discover in Red's, I think, as a safe deposit box that has all the information on what happened. Basically, to give they go to visit Miss O.C. and they find out she's dead, but then she uses magic powers to speak to them and tells them who's behind it. It's Tommy. He was brought back to life, and he's going to kill everyone with the red wings and then go after those kids that killed her. Basically, what it is. So they got to figure out what the red wings is. They look it up in the yearbook and they find out that it is the judge and his friends. So then we, like clockwork, cut to the judge, who is giving his teenage underage son permission to go drink in a cabin. So we're going back to the Cabin in the Woods movie now. Hell of a judge. You know, he's supposed to uphold the justice, right? But he's given his underage son and his friends permission to drink underage on his property. Judge or not, if cops found out, I think that maybe he would get his license taken away, right? His judge license. Anyway, it doesn't matter because Pumpkinhead shows up and kills his ass, which is off screen, but you see blood going everywhere. And it is a little cheesy that when the blood's squirting, it just so happens to land looking like wings. It's a little too much. It's a little too much. You know, it's one thing. I mean, it makes sense that, you know, that Pumpkinhead's not just going painting it with his finger. You know? So he's just doing it, and it splashed that way. It makes sense. But to see it visualized like that, you know. I should comment on his budget is way lower for this scene. He didn't get Stan Winston and his company to do it, but Pumpkinhead doesn't look like bad, and they look that bad, and they still do the lightning flashing in some of the scenes, so it works. It works for this. I don't think this is that bad, to be honest, but it's not as good as the first one, I'll say that. So we get to the climax where everything just sort of goes downhill, and we have to make Danny just complete douche, where he was sort of teetering, half he's a troublemaker with a heart of gold type thing. Nah, no, he's a piece of shit. You gotta make him Joel from the first one, basically. He's got a gun, he's still, nobody's leaving. You sit back down, sit back down. And I'm just like, okay, now we're just retreading the first one. And then tell Paul, give him the keys. Go get your car. I'm like, are you fucking serious? It's the stupidest idea. Of course, tells Paul, go get the car. He goes to the car, gets killed by Pumpkinhead. And then, like clockwork, Marcy gets killed. She gets impaled, and then Pumpkinhead, throws her and kills both her and her boyfriend, leaving two left. And then we get the best kill of the movie, which is Danny. He gets decapitated, and his head just pulled out and thrown. And much like with Joel from the first one, this is the guy you want to see killed because he's been a douche. But to me, it's not as much as with Joel in the first one because he wasn't a complete douche at the beginning. He was kind of normal, and he kind of sort of devolved into a douche throughout the film. So we finished the movie at the place where Pumpkinhead was killed, right? Or where Tommy was killed, excuse me. The sheriff and his nurse, for some reason, is also there. Shows up and says, no, Tommy, you remember me? I saved you. Remember? Or you saved me. I think it was the other way around. You saved me, remember? That's my daughter. She's not involved in any of this. She's wearing a Red Wing jacket, just so you're aware. That's why it's after her. And I thought that was kind of contrived. It's like, oh, he's after her because he sees a jacket, of course. It's the judge's jacket. But anyway, like, please don't hurt her. And he's not going to hurt her. Everything's fine. She comes to him and everything's going to be fine. And this is where the ending is ruined. Earlier in the film, the judge had rounded up a posse to take care of this killer. So they show up and just shoot the fuck out of him. And we flash back to his killing from the beginning of the film, which we've already seen, but we got to see it again. And then he falls down the well again to his death, the end. And then the next day, the sheriff finds the fire truck. Movie ends. Look, I understand that in a creature feature like this, or even in a slasher or horror film, you gotta have a showdown with the big monster or the bad guy, whatever, at the end. And the first Pinhead had that. And Harley shooting himself, that didn't work, so it had to be What's-Her-Nuts that comes to save the day, shooting at Harley and causing fire, whatever. Which, by the way, this is not even connected to It's more like a reboot, sequel thing, whatever. However, this Pumpkinhead was different from the first one. He was sympathetic. Although you could say the same thing with Ed Harley, but he was more sympathetic because of how he died, because of all the things. Pumpkinhead, essentially, in this film, is the hero, the protagonist, in a way. Killing those who wronged him and Miss Osi. Although the Miss Osi thing was an accident, much like in the first one, so it's kind of retreading that. But you have treated Tommy as if he is, like I said, we should sympathize with him. He's sympathetic. Only to then say, no, fucker, die. Have him shoot him the fuck out of him and die. That is conflicting to me. It says, oh, we don't have a way to end this. Let's just have them shoot the fuck out of him. In fact, you could have easily gone back and reshot that, not knowing an ending. I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that they had a completely different ending and someone in the studio told them, no, we need to have an action-packed ending. So they reshot it and shot the scene where the judge calls his posse. And then, listening with that, because to me, either way, they could have ended it, okay? Okay, I thought of this and then I forgot about it. So after Tommy, Pumpkinhead, lets Jenny go. He in this version, before that, the sheriff shows up, and the sheriff and the nurse have Miss Osi's body. And he said, let her go, that's my daughter, he didn't do anything to you. Here, look, we have Miss Osi for you. You can have her. And he lets Jenny go, he takes Miss Osi and he walks off, and we see him go back to where the burial is and go into the ground with her, and it cuts to the next day. And he finds the fire truck. And, Jenny brings him to the burial thing. It's all buried up again, but he finds the fire truck sitting on top. And that's where he recounts that he gave it to him. And you end. You didn't need the shootout. You didn't need that. To me, it ruins that sympathy you're trying to, it takes, and then, well, it still gives him sympathy but he's being killed for no reason. What he was doing was justified. Even those kids accidentally killed him. They were assholes. They deserved to die. Except for Jenny. But just having him shoot him at the end, because either they reshot it or they had no idea how to end the movie. Just, it doesn't work. So, with that in mind, though, when it comes to Pumpkinhead 2 Blood Wings, I'm going to give it middle of the road. I thought it's very high middle of the road, though. Wasn't for that ending, it would still be pretty good, because I kind of enjoyed it. But, yeah. So what are your thoughts on Pumpkinhead? None of this comes below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And, I don't have high hopes for the next two, because they were sci-fi original movies. And I've watched a bunch of sci-fi original movies. A Sharknado. There's a Mega Croc or Mega Snake with Michael Shanks from Stargate. I used to enjoy tuning into those cheesy sci-fi original movies, but I knew they were bad quality, especially with a lot of CGI. And I don't even want to think about what the heck it could look like as cheap sci-fi movie CGI. Sci-Fi Channel. I don't know. And one of them is called Blood Feud. And I don't. Please don't do a Hatfield and McCoy story. They did that with the Dead movies. They didn't use Hatfield and McCoy, so maybe they'll be original and use something else. I don't know. But please don't spoil. Don't spoil anything for me if you've seen it. I already got a comment on my first Pumpkinhead review. That's kind of cool. But I love when people comment. Please comment. Be nice in the comments. By the way, just you know, I like interacting with people. So, thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.